The numbers continue to be impressive for Drew Brees. So many superlatives we could cast his way, but obviously I think most of them have already been discussed or pointed out by virtually everyone. The guy's a great player, transcendent. He's on his way to the NFL Hall of Fame, and he's trying to point the Saints in a direction toward a second Lombardi trophy, and that's not out of the question based upon he has this offense playing the way it's going right now. Ken Trahan with you, SportsNOLA TV, Bergeron Motors, Veterans Boulevard at North Arnold. Love to have you over here to see some of the incredible deals they have on so many wonderful vehicles. You saw the Jeep earlier, but they've got Chryslers, Dodge, Rams, Jeeps, as we mentioned, and of course Volvos to boot. And we thank Dennis Bergeron and his outstanding staff for hosting us once again. Speaking of hosts, time once again to welcome our regular panelists, former New Orleans Saints wide receiver Torrance Small, the great one as Brian calls him. How are you?
I'll take that. And glad to be back. It's always good to come back to you with a win.
Speaking of Brian, should we call him great? I don't know.
Great. Not great, but great.
Just call him. As long as we call him, he's happy, okay?
Yes, that's right.
We told him he could come again, so we gave him permission one more time. So Brian Allee-Walsh at SportsNOLA.com, always a pleasure.
Thanks, Kenny. Great to be here.
All right, and our guest panelist today is a name that you should be very familiar with, synonymous with New Orleans. One of our own, a former star at Higgins High School with the Hurricanes, former star at LSU, with the New Orleans Saints as well, and of course now starring for the New Orleans Voodoo. Oh, he's got a little speed. He says 4.25. Oh, you're not going to stay with that. Sticks that move out of the break. Oh, here we go. He likes to do these things too. Return those kicks on occasion. Oh, is somebody going to find him? Yeah, wait, I mean, where's that speed? He should have run away from these guys. Are you kidding me? And that, of course, is number 10, Skyler Green. Number 5, number 10. He wore some numbers, but he can play, and it's great to have you with us, Skyler. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Well, guys, the Saints with a win yesterday, some people would say that this was more difficult than anticipated, and some people will complain about style points. Oh, this is a young team, should have beaten them in easier fashion. Skyler, let's start with you. I don't think that's the case. I think Carolina is pretty good, and a win on the road in the NFL, especially in your own division, is a good win.
It's always a good win when you're playing in your division. As far as playing against the Panthers, you expect great things out of Cam Newton. He did a great job, tried to pull his team back into it, but the Saints prevailed in the end with a great defense.
Torrance, the Saints defense got 2 stops, and everybody's maligning the Saints defense, but when it mattered in the fourth quarter, they were down 4, and Carolina had the ball, and they got a stop, and that gave Drew Brees a chance to drive the field. Then they got a final stop as well. I think this defense was a little bit better than people give them credit for, especially since on the previous drive that resulted in a touchdown for Carolina to get them close, there were 2 roughing penalties against the Saints that clearly gave Carolina a chance.
Yes, game got a little nippy. In there, but I think the defense is slowly trying to come together, but we're giving up too many big plays. We're not great tacklers in open field. I think we still need to go back and work on those things. As I've been saying, and continue to say, we're going to rely on Drew Brees and this company to score 25, 30 points more to keep us winning these ball games until this defense can come around and play a little better.
Brian, this defense was a turnover machine in the Super Bowl season. Not at all last year. So far this year, kind of in between. They're getting 1 or 2 here or there. They need to do that, and as we've discussed previously, they simply need to be okay, be middle of the pack for this team to have a chance to get back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I agree totally, Kenny. It doesn't need to be the 5th-ranked defense in the league or anything like that, but they do need to be efficient. They need to cause and create turnovers. They have 6 after 5 games, which is not where Greg Williams wants his unit to be. They're a +3 overall in the giveaway takeaway, and that's not very good. It's like 21st in the league. So, but you know what? I really think that we're going to be singing the same song every week. This is who the Saints defense is. I don't think it's going to be any different. I think it's going to be a roller coaster ride each and every week. There may be an occasional shutout for a half or something, but I just think they're going to be struggling to keep people off the field. I really do.
We are seeing the emergence of a playmaker, perhaps, in Patrick Robinson. I know that ball was thrown right to him, but he's there. He also blocks an extra point in the grand scheme of things, which was huge. That's what playmakers do.
That changed the complexion. You know, that extra point hounded this team all the way till the end.
Yeah. I thought it was huge, Torrance.
Oh, yeah. The thing is, as long as you're making plays, regardless how they come to you, if they come straight to you, you're making plays. And that's what makes the difference in the game. As you can see, it got us started early. We was able to get the turnover and come out with 7 points. if these guys, I don't think it's so much as just getting turnovers, it's the turnover margin, because we can't allow to be getting turnovers ourselves. So I think you said we, what, +3?
+3.
We're +3 right now, and I think we want to get that up. That's the margin we want to bring up somewhere. We're not turning the ball over, and the defense is getting turnovers.
Skyler, let's flip it to the other side of the ball. Darren Sproles, a guy you can relate to because he's not big. You weren't big when you played in the NFL.
Still not big.
He's a guy that's fast. You are fast. He's a guy that people have trouble finding. I think they had trouble finding you at times. And he's a guy that's making plays in all phases, running the ball, catching the ball, and returning kicks when given the opportunity.
I think that was a big add for the New Orleans Saints, getting Darren Sproles. And as far as the playmaking ability that he has, it just comes natural. Finding a way to get to the end zone, finding a way to get yards and put their team in position, a better position to win games.
Brian, they have good wide receivers. Not great, but good. But what they have is, I think, already a great tight end. And I'm not using that word loosely. When I look at what Jimmy Graham does already at this stage of his career, I think he's a great tight end in this league.
I agree, and let me just correct something. It's actually a -3 takeaway
Rather
giveaway.
than +3, yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
-3.
they've given away. They've
Exactly.
given away 9 and taken 6 themselves.
Exactly.
So, but you're right. In fact, you could make a case that the best receiver overall is Jimmy Graham. Forget about wide, tight. You know, he is their best, most clutch, most consistent big play receiver on the team. And Sean Payton referred to him as a guy that Hall of Fame potential. Now that's pretty big. That's strong when you use that phrase, Hall of Fame potential. Think about it. He only played 4 or 5 games last year and 5 games this year. So I mean, he's already a guy that is to be reckoned with. Yeah, right. I mean, he's a baby, relative baby when it comes to playing football.
I think he's going to be one of the great ones. The most important thing, he's getting his opportunity. And when you get opportunities, you have to show up. Opportunities only come, they're very short in the NFL, and guys come to the league and they want to do a lot of things, and everybody don't get those opportunities. You very rarely get that opportunity, and he's taking advantage of it.
Brian, this offensive line is holding up. I mean, it's a patchwork situation right now, and I think it's best said that they're holding up. Running game was suitable yesterday. Pass protection was suitable yesterday. Long term, I think they need Strief and Kreutz back.
Yeah, if they're to achieve their goals, and that's to win the Super Bowl, obviously this franchise has set the standard high now. They have to have more consistent play out of their offensive line, and that means getting Olin Kreutz back. It means getting Zach Strief back. Charles Brown and Brian De La Puente are good fill-in guys, and that's not a knock against either one of them, because if you'd ask anybody, except maybe Sean Payton at the start of the preseason, if this would have been the case, would they have been happy with their production? They'd say, absolutely. Absolutely. 4-1 with these guys in that filling in for the starters, absolutely. So, you know, they have to continue to get mileage out of them until they get healthy again.
Skyler, you played with Drew Brees. You were around the Saints. You were with him as a teammate. In your best mode of words, just describe what he's all about. Who is he? What is he in your mind?
He's a great character guy. He's a humble person. As far as he's a great leader, as far as leading the team, and he gets his guys going and motivate them to get ready to play a football game.
And he's a special talent, isn't he? Quick release, deadly accurate.
He lets the ball go.
Eyes in the back of his head, eyes in the side of his head. It gets there in a hurry. Arm strength is so overrated, right? Guys with strong arms can't play left and right. This guy has a good enough arm, and he's just a brilliant player. We are at Bergeron Motors on Veterans in North Arnold, encouraging you to come by and see some of the great deals that they have at Bergeron. We thank Bergeron for their continuing support of SportsNOLA TV. We'll take a time out here. When we return in just a moment, we'll have our fan question, we'll take a look at trivia, and we'll take a trip around the NFL to see what transpired this past weekend as SportsNOLA TV continues. Our trivia question for SportsNOLA TV this evening: the Saints will look to complete a sweep of their 3-game road swing on Sunday at Tampa Bay against the Bucs. Question: how many 3-0 road trips have the Saints pulled off in their history? Well, the question by its very nature would suggest that it hasn't happened very often. So think about it. See if you can come up with the correct answer before we're done here today. We're thinking about it too. We're always thinking about football. We're having fun. Ken Trahan, Torrance Small, Brian Allee-Walsh, and Skyler Green. The NFL weekend was somewhat abbreviated. You had your first bye weeks coming into play this past weekend, and it looks good for the Saints as a result of what transpired. They now sit alone atop the NFC South at 4-1. Tampa Bay, more on them in a moment from Skyler, at 3-2. Atlanta is at 2-3 after losing to the Packers, and Carolina a competitive last at 1-4. So the Saints in very good shape and a chance to distance themselves more as they go to Tampa Bay this coming weekend. With that, let's talk about the NFL. Skyler, I mentioned Tampa Bay, so I'll start with you. This past weekend, you want to talk about Tampa Bay. How do you lose by over 40 points in the NFL today, especially when you're supposed to be a pretty good team?
That's when you're just looking real bad on a Sunday, that you're actually going out there thinking you're ready, but you're actually not prepared for that day. Those guys still have to go out and play a football game, and that's what they went out and do. But for them to lose a game like that, it just doesn't happen.
And some quit in them, too. There's no way that happens. Of course, that's bad news for the Saints. They'll be loaded for bear against the Saints next week. Yeah, might have been looking ahead, in fact, and they made a cross-country trip, all those things, so keep that in mind. Yeah. Okay, Brian, your look at the NFL yesterday, and I know you wanted to touch on the Oakland Raiders with a gut-check win on the road and an emotional win at that against a good team.
Absolutely, and you know, with the passing of Al Davis on Saturday, the legendary managing partner of the Raiders who helped forge the AFL-NFL partnership years and years ago. You know, they played with a lot of emotion. They came back. It was an important win for them on the road in Houston. And you could just tell the emotion. I am becoming a big favorite of Hugh Jackson the more I see and hear of him. I think he's a genuine guy. And I think the Raiders are going to be around all year. I really do.
Well, they're on the upside, maybe on the downside, a team that was supposed to be really good, the dream team of the NFL, if you will, the Philadelphia Eagles. They're a one-win team. No disrespect to Michael Vick, but he never was a great passer, and maybe we're starting to see a little bit of that. 4 interceptions, although their offense compiles a lot of yards, their defense isn't stopping anybody, and their offensive line is a problem.
Well, let's look at this so-called dream team who is dreaming right now. Let's go start at the top. Let's start with Andy Reid. He's not getting these guys to play right now. He has the talent. Now, where he's lacking talent is offensive line, which you can have all the playmakers you want, but if Michael Vick's not getting the time to get the ball off, he's going to have problems. Number 2, defense. Defense is not tackling well. For one, they took an offensive line coach and made him the defensive coordinator. I thought it was a bold move. And I know Juan, I played over there with Philadelphia. I know, great guy, but I just don't see how you take an offensive line coach and make him a defensive coordinator. The guys are not buying into what this guy is putting out there. They're getting ran over. They're giving up big plays. They're not making turnovers. So, and this is not Eagle. When you think of the Eagles, you think of the late Jim Johnson when he was the coach. Blitz, and turnover, and they're not getting that now.
Let's take a look at the NFL scores and what transpired this past weekend as a whole. We mentioned the Buffalo win over Philadelphia. Buffalo continues to impress. Kansas City came from way down, 17-0 to keep the Colts winless without Peyton Manning. Colts are dead. Minnesota belts Arizona 34-10. Just give the ball to Adrian Peterson, please. We talked about Oakland. Cincinnati, very impressive. Andy Dalton quietly getting it done as a rookie quarterback, beating Jacksonville. How about Seattle going cross-country on the road to beat the Giants? Bad loss for the G-men. Pittsburgh, a lot of people picked Tennessee to win. Ben Roethlisberger, 5 touchdowns despite a bad ankle. San Diego survived Denver, but the story there was Tim Tebow. He got a chance to play, he played well, and now he's got to start. Green Bay beats Atlanta last night, and they overcame a 14-point deficit. We mentioned the mauling of San Francisco over Tampa Bay, and then New England handing the other so-called dream team, self-proclaimed dream team. Go talk to Rex Ryan, a 30-21 defeat. Still going to that Super Bowl, Rex? At 2-3, maybe so, but it isn't going to be easy. Chicago at Detroit is the Monday night game. The other teams all had a bye. Each and every week we have our fan segment where fans can step up and ask a question at whatever location we happen to be at. We always have great fans here at Bergeron Motors on Veterans at North Arnold. So with that, we ask you to state your name and fire away.
I'm Peter from Kenner. I was just wondering, besides Alabama, who else gives LSU the biggest test on the rest of the season?
Okay, Brian, what about any other real tests that LSU will have outside of Alabama?
I'd say Arkansas after Arkansas, the last game of the regular season for them. Yes,
Skyler?
absolutely.
I say Arkansas, always a big game.
Torrance?
Arkansas, that's the only thing after Alabama. But, you know, the game everybody wants to see is LSU against Alabama. I think they're a mirror. If you look at the two teams, they're right on target to have a big one.
Yeah, I think Arkansas is probably the one that you're looking at. Tennessee now, without their starting quarterback this weekend, that's not as tough as a result. Auburn, just not good enough defensively from where I sit to pose LSU a problem. Ole Miss, please. All right, another question, and this one is Tulane related, I believe, right?
Yeah, is it just smoke, or is the Big 12 really interested in Tulane?
Okay, I'll start with that one, and I think the answer is they're not really that interested. I think there's interest, but it's minimal. I think Tulane is a back-end prospect for the Big 12. I think they have other priorities, and if they can't get their frontline priorities, maybe Tulane gets into the mix, and I think clearly that's what Tulane hopes for. You've got to position yourself to be prepared to be swept up in this wave of the evolution of what's transpiring in the NCAA. And that's how Tulane can advance, by being that second-tier or third-tier choice of another conference. I, for one, hope it happens. Torrance?
I think it'll be great. I think it'll be great for Tulane. They might be able to get some recruits, keep some of these local kids from going to LSU, and try to keep some at home where their parents are able to stay home and watch them and be able to play in front of the home front crowd. So I think it'll be great for the school. I think it'll be great for the city to see some of these bigger teams come down and play in our city.
Skyler, was Tulane ever a consideration for you out of Higgins?
Not after my junior year. Once I decided to commit to LSU, I decided to go 100% LSU.
Mm-hmm. Ryan?
I think, you know, Tulane would be a plan B, plan C for the Big 12. My advice to Tulane is take care of your business in Coosa right now and improve your facilities, improve your programs. Don't worry about the Big 12. Worry about what you've got right now.
Yeah, make it better. Improve facilities, pay more money to coaches, improve facilities, pay more money to coaches, and then admissions, of course. There you go. Admissions, you know, to a degree. They do have some exceptions, and some people have a certain complete and total misunderstanding of that. They do allow exceptions, but just not that many. And if you're going to be competitive, I think to get the Skyler Greens of the world, you've got to be able to take guys that might make an 18 or a 17 on the ACT, might not have a 3.5 GPA. I think those are also in the mix. But I think more than anything else, it's simply a commitment from top to bottom. Do you really think over 50 years that every coach they've hired has been bad, except for Tommy Bowden or Larry Smith or Mac Brown or Jim Pittman? Guys that had a winning season or two and then got out of here as fast as they could? We'll see. It's SportsNOLA TV from Bergeron Motors on Veterans in North Arnold, where they always have the best deals in town. You need to come by and support Bergeron Motors. I know you'll get the best deal you could ever want, with many different vehicles to shop from and see. When we return in just a moment, it's the hot seat segment. Mr. Walsh will occupy that, and we'll try to roast him even more when SportsNOLA TV continues. The Saints will look to complete that sweep of a 3-game road swing on Sunday at Tampa Bay. I think they'll do so for one. How many 3-0 road trips have the Saints pulled off in their history? You thought about it? There it is. It happened once in 1987. Remember, woulda, shoulda, coulda? Jim Mora blasted off after they lost to the 49ers, and they promptly went on a 3-game win streak, including a revenge victory at San Francisco on a 41-yard field goal by Morton Anderson out at Candlestick Park. I was there, and that was quite a year for the Saints with their first winning season ever. Each and every week, we have our hot seat segment, in which case we put Mr. Brian Allee-Walsh on the hot seat with a particular topic that we debate. And this week, our hot seat topic surrounds the Saints and LSU combined. Who is doing the better coaching job in 2011? Is it Les Miles of LSU, or is it Sean Payton of the New Orleans Saints? Brian Allee-Walsh, you are on the hot seat.
Thank you, Dr. Trahan. First off, let me say that both coaches are doing an outstanding coaching job.
Playing the fence. Playing the fence.
All right. I'm going to take this stand, and I'll eloquently state my case, I hope.
Playing defense.
I'm going to say that Sean Payton is doing a slightly better coaching job than Les Miles for this very reason. He has taken a team that has been locked out from its premises for the better part of 8 months coming into the preseason because of the NFL lockout. They had no contact, no physical contact, no verbal contact. The only thing that the team was able to do was Coach Breeze ran a 6-week workout camp at Tulane University. So other than that, this team was not able to work out, do anything together. So from that very point, I think that he's done a good job. But now that they've ratified the new CBA, they come back. Now they have fewer padded practices than ever. You know, they only have 14 padded practices in a season, let alone preseason. They've made some changes on the roster, some big changes. One was trading Reggie Bush to Miami, and then picking up who I think is probably one of the best free agent acquisitions in the league this preseason in Darren Sproles. They've had 2 major injuries, holes to fill along their offensive front in the first couple of games at Zach Strief. They're actually working on their 3rd right tackle or their 3rd center, and yet they're still scoring at 31 points per game. Their defense, I think, is where their defense is what's suffering. Their defense is what's suffering right now. But anyway, I rest my case. Sean Payton in a landslide.
As my buddy Jimmy Stewart say, time's up, gotta go. I mean, my goodness, it's a novel for television. Are you kidding me? Okay, Small, you couldn't wait.
Did you hold your breath on that one? Man. Come on. Hey,
you're wasting time.
Hey,
exactly. Get to the point.
The Mad Hatter. Bottom line, the Mad Hatter. If we really want to, Coach Sean Payton, he didn't really start winning until Greg Williams got there, so he had a little help. So before we jump up and just give it to him, but the Mad Hatter is down there, man.
They won in 2006. They got to the NFC Championship game.
It's this season we're talking about, Mr. Small.
Again. Greg Williams
Can I treat
is over
him
there
as
to
a
help his
hostile
guy.
witness?
He's a hostile witness. But you always do.
But if we want to talk about a team, a guy that's playing a talented team, here's a guy you want to talk about playing people. What about you lose your starting quarterback before the beginning of the season? You come in with a guy, Jared Lee, that people didn't have no trust in, but he comes in and he not only beats was they the number 1 team?
Oregon, they were number 1, but they were number 3.
Number 3. Well, they beat 3 top 10 teams in their in the game. 3.
Not 2.
In the top
Mississippi
10.
State wasn't a top 10 team.
Boy,
they were a
get
top
your
25
facts
team.
straight.
But that's okay. We get your point. Finish it.
Jared Lee's winning ball games, and now we have Jefferson coming back. I like the way he's handling that situation. He's winning ball games. He will be in the national championship down here in New Orleans, and I'll be sitting with my main man here, Brian Allee-Walsh.
Now you know why you sit in the middle, Skyler.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
You're the middle man. Fire away.
I keep
Take the
them
right guy
up
now.
with each
Let
other.
this man speak. It's all yours.
I'm going with the purple and gold, baby.
There we
You
go.
know it. You
There
know
we
it.
go.
Coach Les Miles, just like Torrance said, he's coming in with Jared Lee, and he's done an outstanding job by handling that situation with quarterbacks. Coach Miles, he shows straight determination trying to get their team to win games, and he preaches it to those guys.
He's still getting paid by LSU.
And the Saints released him. No, I'm just kidding. We're just having fun here.
We're having fun.
But not only that. But let's look at LSU. When LSU come into a game, they are focused.
Yeah.
And they know what they want to do. Take for example.
And the Saints
punter.
are the Saints.
No.
Okay.
But take for example. Look
All
at the
right.
punter. Look at the punter. Nobody told him to run. He saw something open. He took it. That's because he's well coached. And we're talking about coaching.
right now.
There we go.
All Thomas Morstead is leading NFL punters
And kicking the ball,
and
in
kicking
the
the
end
ball
zone
out
every
of bounds.
time.
And
I
I mean,
hear
Oh, so that's coaching?
Listen.
That's
that's
coaching?
focused.
That's not coaching.
Come on.
That's being
man.
focused. You're saying the guy's focused.
You know what that guy do all day?
What?
Punt.
That's what he do.
The bottom line is that they're both doing a great job, okay? It's apples and oranges. You don't compare college to pro. Why in the world are we doing this? Well, from my perspective, we do it to give credit to both. Sean Payton's doing an outstanding job given the circumstances that he's dealt with. They've lost 2 linemen they've had to play without for a couple of weeks, and they've done an excellent job. They lost Marcus Colston in the opening game of the season. They didn't miss him. They had the next guy up philosophy and theory, and they've taught this team this, and this team accepts this and understands how to be disciplined, in particular on the road, where they're 17-5 over the last 22 games. But it's really all about number 9. You take him away, it's a different story. Where LSU is concerned, there's no question that Les Miles has done a superior job, perhaps better than Sean Payton, given the distractions, Akeem Hicks, and the probation that existed from the NCAA before the season even starts. Then you get into the Shady's situation and what transpired there, and player suspensions and legal issues, and Jared Lee, as we talked about. And by the way, LSU's had 3 offensive linemen get hurt during the course of this year and miss significant time. And they had one in Dworsek that got hurt before the season started. So they've had to overcome a lot to be where they're at. Miles has done a great job. Sean Payton has done a really good job, too. I don't have any dog in this fight. I think they're both excellent. I think it's a good topic because they're both doing well. But if you pin me down and ask me to pick one, I'd say Miles by a slight margin over Payton.
You're wrong, too.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Purple and gold.
Purple and gold, huh?
Purple and gold.
Where's Bob Toledo in all this? I don't know. I mean, I like Bob Toledo. Listen,
too. They're just
we're
trying
going
to
talk,
get the Big 12.
and we're going to talk about that in subsequent weeks to come, because that's something that we're going to hash out largely, is what Tulane's situation is and why it is where it is, and whose fault is it that they're in the position that they're in. Bottom line is there are a lot of reasons, and it's not all just the coach, I can assure you. But we all agree that these 2 coaches, Les Miles and Sean Payton, are elite. They're right near the top of their profession. We do agree on that, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, yes. Oh, definitely.
Yeah, when you think about it, you've got 2 outstanding programs, one franchise, one program, 80 miles apart, and these are elite programs right now at college and professional levels. So there's a lot to be thankful for in Louisiana.
Yeah, is Louisiana a Saint state or an LSU state?
Well, it depends. Northern is probably LSU,
Yes.
and I would say Southern is Southeast anyway is Saints for sure.
Well, the Saints have etched themselves into the minds of people in central Louisiana, North Louisiana. It's still an LSU state
I've always
overall because of
said that
the fact
even
that
in
it's a
New
statewide
Orleans,
entity. It's Louisiana State University.
Yeah, even in New Orleans, it's like 1 and 1A.
I think so, yeah. I think so.
Yeah.
But the good news is the Saints now have fans in North Louisiana, which they really didn't have previously, and therefore they have a base that is larger than it's ever been.
Oh, yes.
We are at Bergeron Motors in Metairie. Glad you've joined us. SportsNOLA TV continues in just a moment. Stay with us. SportsNOLA.com, best website you'll find anytime, anywhere, and stories on everything imaginable. Saints coverage, you got it. LSU, full coverage. Tulane, absolutely. And prep coverage, second to none. SportsNOLA.com, best site on the web. You need to go there. And oh yes, you should read Brian Allee-Walsh's material and Lenny Van Gilder's material and everyone else's for that matter, because these guys are simply outstanding. Maybe Small will jump in one day and contribute something to this. Then we'll really be great. Maybe. We'll see.
We can't afford them.
Let me release someone.
All right.
Don't look at me.
Oh, man.
Don't talk about the word release around Skyler, for crying out loud, man. All right. LSU and Tulane this past weekend had decidedly different outcomes. One was a huge victory. The other was a debilitating defeat in a game that could have been won. Let's take a look at some of the highlights from the LSU Tigers, #1 in the nation, against the Florida Gators. Skyler, this was always a big rivalry in your time. It still is, isn't it?
It is very much so. Every time you play Florida, you want to beat Florida every time they step out on the football field.
That's a great throw by Jared Lee, Torrance.
Jared Lee throws a great deep ball. I think he needs to work on his short passing game, but right now his deep ball is great and he's managing the game very well.
Brian, this kid runs nails. Spencer Ware, he's a future NFL player.
Absolutely, but he's coached by one of the best coaches in the world in Les Miles.
All right, there's your favorite play, Brian. There you go. Brad Wayne The Australian.
That's
Australian rules football. What does he do here?
Hey, think about that.
Like a split second
I'll tell you
flap,
what, he
right?
wasn't quite focused there, was he, Torrance? Where's the focus there, my
Yeah,
friend?
what about
Watch
that coaching? Come
Yeah.
on, man.
Hey, and
I
watch
rest
what
my
happened with
case
this guy.
again.
And watch what happens to this guy.
Little speed here. Look at this, a guy
burner.
wearing number 10 that can run fast.
Hey,
How
that was
about
another
that?
guy that was. That was another guy that didn't play
Yeah.
early in the season.
I'll
That's
tell you
right.
what, though,
Shepard
was
and
there
Jordan
speed
Jefferson
on that
did a good
field?
job.
Was there speed on that field?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Florida's got fast running backs.
Oh.
They got fast players overall, but not
Yeah.
as fast as LSU.
No.
There's a good play fake and go up top
Yeah,
again.
another deep
Another
ball.
good throw and a deep ball to Reuben Randall.
Yes, he throws a great deep ball.
He really does. And then bring in Jordan Jefferson. Oh, they steal a Tim Tebow
Yeah.
play. This is in your face,
wet,
man.
Great wet.
Oh, it's in your
Great
face,
defense.
Skyler.
Great Tebow. Great coaching.
Isn't that insulting, Skyler?
Great.
Yeah.
That is.
Great.
You loved,
They
you
stole
loved,
the play
you
from
loved every minute of it,
Every
right?
minute of it. I'm
Great
telling you.
coaching. You have to love it.
You take their play and
That's
score.
amazing.
I think it was great.
Thank you, Mr. Tebow.
All right. So the Tigers win convincingly over Florida, 41-11. Tulane was at home in the Dome against the Orange of Syracuse and former Saints offensive coordinator Doug Marrone. Tulane out of the tunnel. You would think they were ready to play, but if you watch the first half, they were anything but ready to play as they were way behind, down 24-7 quickly. Run a little misdirection here. I like that. Gets them some nice yardage and getting them upfield. Bottom line is, you got to be ready to play, Brian. You can't come out flat, especially when you're not a very talented team to begin with, and they buried themselves in this game.
Well, I think all those stories of them joining the Big 12 may have gone to their head.
Okay. All right, enough of the jokes. Skyler, bottom line is, when you're 2-3, when you're a losing team perpetually, you've got to be ready to play from the start. They obviously were not.
Yeah, you most definitely got to be prepared to play. If you're not prepared to play, then if you're going into the game flat, you're going to play flat. You play how you ready. If you're ready to play, you're going to go out there and give it your all.
Torrance, the good news is they played great in the second half. It's a shame they couldn't have played that way the whole game. They had the game tied, but lost on a last-second field goal.
Well, that's why, you have to start out early. You want to get out early and make the team catch up with you. You don't want to have to play catch up.
Well, Ryan Griffin played very well. Hit 15 straight passes at one time in this game and did a good job. And their defense played great in the second half until the final drive. Hopefully, they can carry that over into their game with UTEP at home this coming week. Well, it's time now for our Prep Player of the Week from SportsNOLA.com. And when you talk about Prep Players of the Week, how about this guy? Devontae Knoll, just a sophomore quarterback at Edna Carr. Check these numbers out. He passed for 339 yards and 6 touchdowns. He rushed for 118 yards and a 7th touchdown in a 48-18 win over Helen Cox. And by the way, I do high school games. Helen Cox is a good team. So this is some performance. These are Green-esque numbers, except Green never got a chance to throw a pass. Are you kidding me? Not for the Dogs of War, but here's a big effort by Devontae Knoll, our Prep Player of the Week from SportsNOLA.com. Congratulations to Devontae Knoll and Coach Jabbar Jalouk and the Carr Cougars. It's time now for our high school spotlight segment of the week, and as we take a look at some of the best programs in the area every week, we take a look at a team that's ranked very high in the state polls in 5A, undefeated at this point in the season and just playing solid football all around. That would be the Jesuit Blue Jays. Jude Young profiles Jesuit High School.
All right, Coach, first we'll talk about your offense and particularly your running game. You have several options there as far as who to give the football to, and it's led to great success the past couple of seasons.
A lot of credit goes to our offensive coaching staff, Coach Lamoth, and those guys do a great job. We have been fortunate to have some running backs to be able to run the ball. Paul Stanton, Austin Duncan, 2 running backs in the backfield that done a real nice job, as well as Cameron Dobbins, who also plays some quarterback, and he also works at running back.
Meanwhile, on the defensive side of the ball, people who follow recruiting know a lot about Deion Jones. He's an outstanding linebacker. Talk a little bit about him.
The thing that Debo brings is he brings some true athleticism to our defense. I mean, I say this all the time. We don't pass the eye contest getting off the bus. So when you got a guy like Debo who does pass that eye contest and that eye test coming off the bus with his athleticism and his size and his ability to run, it's nice to have.
And finally, 1960, when you bring up that number in the Jesuit family, there's a little bit of pressure involved there as trying to finally get Jesuit football back into a state championship game and win it. Talk about the pressure involved there sometimes, and more importantly, the fact that Class 5A is wide open and you have a real opportunity here if you can stay healthy and continue this run.
Well, I mean, first of all, 1960 was the year I was born. Okay, so I read about it in historical annals as one of the greatest football teams in Jesuit history. You know, along with the 46 and other teams. But you know, from that standpoint, you know, we're trying to take care of each week. You know, we've got to take care of Chalmette this week. We always are trying, number one, to get into the playoffs, to get into the table, get onto the bracket, and then, you know, in a tough district, everybody would love to be able to wear that district patch. So, you know, we set those goals, and from there we get into the playoffs and we see what happens.
A line in the Jesuit alma mater goes, "Skyward stream thy blue and white." And that's appropriate for this Blue Jay football team because this season, the sky appears to be the limit. I'm Jude Young for SportsNOLA TV.
Thank you, Jude. Boy, I wonder where Jude went to high school. Anytime a guy knows the words to an alma mater, Brian, there's a pretty good chance that he went to that school, buddy. You think?
I think so.
All right. Hey,
right.
Wade Kaiser is one of the class acts in the business, and he's doing a great job with the Blue Jays this year. And they do have a real chance, I think, as a dark horse in 5A to get to the Superdome this year. It's time now for Marvin LeBlanc, Marvelous Performance Systems Leadership Minute. Marvin LeBlanc is a motivational speaker and trainer who has helped the small business owner sell more, lead better, and enjoy life to its fullest. Here is Marvin LeBlanc from his Marvelous Performance Systems training programs with today's leadership advice. Marvin.
Thank you, Kenny. It's great to be back. Today we're going to talk about winning in the workplace, and what we want to do is win back at least 2 hours per employee per workday. Now, how do we do that? Recently there was a study that suggested 10,000 anonymous employees were asked the question, how much time do we waste per day in the workplace? So think about that question. 2 hours and 9 minutes per day are wasted in the workplace because of either intentional procrastination, non-work related internet and cell phone use. We see a lot of that nowadays, Torrance. Gossiping amongst your coworkers, complaining about the coworkers, or complaining about your boss. Now here's my call to action today. In your workplace, find an accountability partner. And what we're going to do with that accountability partner is we're going to tell them, hey, I'd like to do better. I'd like you to watch me when I have a negative potty mouth, because whether it's a locker room or the workplace, there's no place for that criticism. And so what we're trying to do is bring it respectfully to the attention of the offender. So for more helpful information, you can go to marvinleblanc.com. The most important thing we want to remember in this segment is let's build each other. Let's not tear each other down.
As always, thank you, Marvin, for those words of wisdom. We'll take a time out here. When we return, we'll break down the Saints at Tampa Bay as SportsNOLA TV continues. Bergeron, Chrysler, Ram, Jeep, Volvo, you name it, they've got it. And you need to come by Bergeron Motors, veterans in North Arnold, to get the deal of a lifetime from people you can trust. By the way, I want to remind you that October the 21st, our good friend Ricky Jackson, who was with us last week, he and Vaughn Johnson will be speaking at a Jefferson Parish prayer breakfast and outreach for Christians throughout our area and those who need to hear a good word. 7 a.m. at the Landmark Hotel in Metairie, and we hope you will come. For more information, you can call 985-626-9582. That's October 21st at the Landmark Metairie, 7 a.m. Don't Patrol members Ricky Jackson and Vaughn Johnson, two of the best that ever played linebacker in the NFL. The Saints hope to get good linebacking play and good play overall at Tampa Bay against the Buccaneers. Skyler, as you talked about, this team will really be motivated. It's a division game, and obviously this is a game that the Saints obviously are going to have to be ready to play to beat a team that figures to be very motivated.
Always have to be ready in a division game because you play them twice a year. Those guys know what they expect out of you. They're looking to come in and try to climb back up the ladder to get back up into the runnings of the conference as far as Tampa Bay goes. But the Saints are going to go in there and play some dominating football. They have to if they want to win.
Saints have won the last couple of games they've played there, so they've been good on the road at Tampa Bay, Skyler.
Yeah, they have. They have been phenomenal when they went to Tampa and win games. And Devery have to have a big game that game. Usually Devery always have a big game against Tampa.
Torrance, Josh Freeman is a talented young quarterback. Boy, he's big, he's athletic, he makes some throws, he's brought his team back to win some games. A few ups and downs. What about him?
I think that's with the team. I think he's going to be I think he's a solid quarterback. I think he's going to be good in the NFL. But right now, looking at Tampa right now, you cannot go to San Francisco and lose the way they lost. They're really showing their age. They're a young team, and they showed their age that they're young. They didn't come out focused. They didn't. I don't know if it was the coaching. I don't know what it was. Are they looking ahead to the Saints or whatnot? But right now, they're not showing the promise that we thought they'd have.
Brian LeGarrette Blount is a load. That's first and foremost a priority, is to take him away. And then, of course, from a defensive perspective, Tampa plays at Tampa 2, and they're going to make you bleed them to death to go down the field. You have to stay patient as an offense if you're the Saints.
Absolutely, and that, they'll give up the short yarders, the underneath routes, and they'll make the Saints try to make mistakes. They'll make them earn it, and they've had trouble inside the red zone this season. So that's Tampa 2 defense. And I think the worst thing, Kenny, that could have happened to the Saints is really, in many ways, for Tampa to go out and get blown out there, because Raheem Morris is going to have this team up. If they were looking ahead or not, T, I don't know, but they went out there and laid a big egg out there. That's for sure.
And that's definitely not a sign of a team that is mature.
No, it isn't.
Why they
Absolutely,
get like that's
great
not
point.
a sign of a team.
I think you were looking at a team, frankly, that was looking ahead. They made a cross-country trip, and they weren't ready to play. They were looking ahead of the Saints. Here's the upcoming schedule. Saints are at Tampa Bay. Then they come home to play the Colts. Then they're at St. Louis to play the winless Rams. Then it's a rematch with Tampa Bay. I think it's safe to say that if they win at Tampa Bay this weekend, the Saints are going to get to at least 7-1 before they look at another game with Tampa Bay, which figures to be a tough test at home. Well, guys, it's been a pleasure. Skyler Green, a pleasure. Great to have you with us.
Thanks for having me. I
Always.
enjoyed it.
It's good to see you.
Yes,
And good luck with the Voodoo, too. Keep up the good work with Arena Football here in New Orleans.
Oh, yes.
Torrance Small, thank you. Brian Allee-Walsh, always a pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
All right, for our entire crew.
with you guys.
Now, this is Ken Trahan from Bergeron Motors 3525 Veterans at North Arnold, saying thanks for joining us this evening on SportsNOLA TV. God bless you one and all. We are rounding third and heading home. So long.